Human history is filled with numerous mythical tales about gods, angels, giants, and disasters. While these tales seem fascinating and mysterious at first, if you look closer you'll find they show an alternative human history most failed to notice. The ancient Hebrew apocalyptic religious work known as the Book of Enoch is credited to Noah's great-grandfather Enoch. It contains astonishing revelations about the origins of evil, the fallen angels, the Nephilim, the flood, the Messiah, and the end times. However, the book has been hidden from public consumption because it contains information about the shocking mysteries of how we came to be that have been banned from the Bible. Why was this book excluded from the Bible? What secrets does it hold? Join us as we explore the Book of Enoch, which reveals shocking mysteries of our history. Who was Enoch? From the Bible, we know that Enoch was Adam's great-great-great-great-grandson and Noah's great-grandfather, who lived a holy and faithful life to the Lord. He also became the father of Methuselah, the longest living man. Throughout his 3+ centuries on earth, he has numerous other offspring. Enoch is also only one of 2 people taken straight to heaven, escaping death altogether. After 365 years on earth, God takes him away, as stated in Genesis 5:24. The verb for take appears to mean snatched up or carried away, perhaps similar to the way God had taken Elijah the prophet. Throughout the years he lived, he walked in faith, and that made all the difference. No matter what happened, he trusted God, he obeyed God. God loved Enoch so much that he spared him the experience of death. Enoch is the subject of many Jewish and Christian traditions. He was considered the author of the Book of Enoch and was also called the Scribe of Judgment. In the New Testament, Enoch is referenced in the Gospel of Luke, the Epistle to the Hebrews, and the Epistle of Jude, the last of which also quotes from it. He is venerated as a saint in the Catholic Church, Eastern Orthodoxy, and Oriental Orthodoxy. Enoch was a famous preacher. His message was one of God's judgment against humanity. His ministry was a precursor to the ministry of Noah, a preacher of righteousness and builder of the ark. With the extent of unrighteousness and ungodliness in the world, it was remarkable for a man to stand up and proclaim judgment on his neighbors. To know much more about the background of this mythical figure and the supernatural experiences he went through, we have to redirect our attention to the apocryphal books written by Enoch. But firstly, how was this book discovered? In late 1946 or early 1947, Bedouin teenagers were tending their goats and sheep near the ancient settlement of Qumran, located on the northwest shore of the Dead Sea in what is now known as the West Bank. One of the young shepherds tossed a rock into an opening on the side of a cliff and was surprised to hear a shattering sound. He and his companions later entered the cave and found a collection of large clay jars, 7 of which contained leather and papyrus scrolls. An antiquities dealer bought the cache, which ultimately ended up in the hands of various scholars who estimated that the texts were over 2,000 years old. After the word of the discovery got out, Bedouin treasure hunters and archaeologists unearthed tens of thousands of additional scroll fragments from 10 nearby caves. Together they make up between 800 and 900 manuscripts. It was the Book of Enoch, which is comprised of 5 books: the Book of Watchers, the Book of Parables, the Astronomical Book, the Dream Visions, and the Epistles of Enoch. The book is regarded as doubtful, pseudepigraphal, and excluded from Jewish and Christian scriptural books. It was discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls and was written between 300 BC and 100 BC. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church and the Eritrean Orthodox Tewahedo Church include the book in their canon of scripture. Jude, who refers to Enoch as the 7th from Adam, also quotes it in the New Testament. The Dead Sea Scrolls contain some fragments of the Book of Enoch in Aramaic, Greek, and Latin languages. These fragments prove that the Book of Enoch was known by some Jews and early Christians in the Near East, and that it was part of the literature that influenced their beliefs and practices. The Book of Enoch is also quoted from ancient texts from the Dead Sea Scrolls, such as the Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs. The Dead Sea Scrolls also contain other texts related to the Book of Enoch, such as the Book of Giants, the Book of Jubilees, and the Book of Heavenly Luminaries. These texts share themes and stories with the Book of Enoch, such as the fallen angels, the Nephilim, the end times, and the heavenly secrets. The Book of Enoch is divided into 5 main sections, each with its theme and style: the Book of the Watchers, the Book of Parables, the Book of Heavenly Luminaries, the Book of Dream Visions, and the Book of the Epistle of Enoch. In the first book, the Book of the Watchers, the Nephilim, a race of giants, was created by the fallen angels mating with human women and arriving on earth. The judgment of the fallen angels and their progeny by God and his angels is also described in the book. 3 parables on the arrival of the Messiah, the Son of Man, who would judge the evil and reward the good, are found in the second book, the Book of Parables. Moreover, the book has some of the first allusions to the resurrection of the dead and the end times judgment. In the third volume, the Book of the Heavenly Luminaries, an intriguing guide to the sky's mysteries may be found. It explains how the movements and operations of the sun, moon, stars, and other celestial bodies impact the days, nights, seasons, and years. It also teaches us how to use the celestial calendar to obey God's rules and determine the dates of festivals, sabbaticals, and new moons. Enoch describes 2 extraordinary visions he experienced in the 4th book, the Book of Dream Visions, which takes us on a trip over time and space. In the first dream, he sees the world created, the first humans, Adam and Eve, and their offspring. He observes the angels' uprising and the Nephilim's desecration of the world, then witnesses Noah and his family's deliverance and the vast flood that drowns all the evil. In the second dream, he sees Israel's destiny, from their exodus from Egypt through the conquest of Canaan, the rise and fall of the kings, exile and restoration, the arrival of the Messiah, and the final judgment of the nations. He also sees a new heaven and earth where the righteous will dwell forever. These dreams are full of symbols and mysteries revealing God's secret plan for his creation. Many predictions, visions, and depictions of heavenly places and creatures are included in the book. To distinguish it from the other manuscripts attributed to Enoch, 2 Enoch, and 3 Enoch, the book is sometimes known as 1 Enoch. The book of the Epistle of Enoch, the 5th book, contains a wealth of knowledge and understanding that Enoch left behind for his sons and those who would follow him. The book comprises several letters that Enoch wrote in which he counsels, forewarns, and inspires his readers. He also discusses some of his prophecies and visions, including those about the emergence of the Antichrist, the tribulation, and the resurrection of the dead. He also uses quotations from some of his previous works, including books of Watchers and Parables, and outside sources like the books of Noah and Giants. The Enoch manuscript begins with a warning to all humankind and to the fallen angels who have made the earth a home of evil, bloodshed, and sorcery. The giant Forbidden Book's earliest writings date back to around 300 BC, with the latest records to around 100 BC. The Book of Enoch was removed from the Jewish and Christian biblical canons in the first centuries of the new calendar. It reveals secrets about which the church is silent. According to ancient writings, Enoch was the guardian of all the treasures of heaven, the chief of the archangels, and the immediate minister of the throne of God. There is also talk about the fallen angels and the fact that they sinned here on earth because they began to multiply with earthly women and revealed to them heavenly secrets for which the human race was not yet ready. The prohibition of the book was most likely also influenced by the fact that it contained prophecies about Christ himself. The tale of the Watchers and the Nephilim is another of the Book of Enoch's most fascinating and mysterious tales. What did they do to deserve God's anger and judgment? Who were they? God tasked a troop of angels known as the Watchers with keeping watch on the planet and its occupants. In Hebrew, they are also known as the Sons of God. They were members of the Divine Council, which was made up of celestial creatures that served and adored the Most High God. Some of these Watchers, nevertheless, were tainted by their passion for the earthly women, the daughters of mankind. They made the decision to leave their celestial positions and come to the world, where they married women and had offspring with them. These kids were the Nephilim, the enormous progeny of the coupling between angels and humans. Literally meaning the fallen ones, the term Nephilim also has the potential to suggest that they were the result of miscarriages or horrific births. The Nephilim were not ordinary humans. These were the mighty men of old, the heroes and warriors of ancient legends and myths. They were also the source of violence, wickedness, and occult knowledge on the earth. They oppressed and devoured the human race and caused bloodshed and chaos everywhere. The book portrays the Watchers and the Nephilim as the origins of evil and the cause of the flood. The Watchers not only sinned against God by leaving their heavenly abode and defiling themselves with human women, but they also taught their offspring and the humans various forbidden arts and sciences, such as warfare, astrology, magic, sorcery, and divination. They corrupted the natural order of creation and introduced sin and death to the world. God was not pleased with the actions of the Watchers and the Nephilim. He sent his archangels, such as Michael, Gabriel, and Uriel, to bind and imprison the Watchers in the abyss, a dark and gloomy place of torment, until the day of judgment. He also decreed that the Nephilim and their human allies would be destroyed by a great flood that would cover the whole earth. He chose Noah, a righteous and blameless man, to build an ark and save his family and a pair of every kind of animal from the coming cataclysm. The story of the Watchers and the Nephilim in the book of Enoch is similar to, but also different from, the story in Genesis 6. In Genesis 6, the sons of God and the daughters of men are mentioned briefly, without much explanation or detail. The Nephilim are also mentioned, but their origin and nature need to be clarified. The focus of Genesis 6 is on the wickedness of humanity in general and God's regret and grief over his creation. The flood is presented as a response to the corruption and violence of all flesh, not just the offspring of the angels and women. Some scholars suggest that the book of Enoch is an expansion and interpretation of the Genesis account, while others suggest that both texts draw from a common ancient tradition that was widespread in the Near East. The Watchers and the Nephilim story is fascinating and complex, revealing many secrets and mysteries about the ancient world and the divine plan. It also raises many questions and challenges for our understanding of the nature and role of angels, the origin and extent of evil, and the relationship between God and humanity. Another fascinating and mysterious story in the book of Enoch is the story of the journey of Enoch. How was Enoch chosen by God to be a messenger and a witness to the fallen angels and the righteous ones? How was Enoch taken up to heaven and shown various visions and secrets by the archangels? And how does the book of Enoch reveal Enoch's role as a prophet and a mediator between God and humanity? Enoch was a righteous and blameless man who walked with God. He was the seventh patriarch after Adam and the father of Methuselah, the longest-lived man in the Bible. He was also the great-grandfather of Noah, the hero of the flood. Enoch was so pleasing to God that he did not die but was taken by God to heaven. The Bible says in Genesis 5:24, Enoch walked with God, then he was no more, because God took him away. The book of Enoch tells us more about what happened to Enoch after he was taken by God. It says that Enoch was chosen by God to be a messenger and a witness to the fallen angels, the Watchers who sinned against God by mating with human women and producing the Nephilim. Enoch was also a witness to the righteous ones, the faithful remnant of humanity who obeyed God and awaited his salvation. It describes how Enoch was taken up to heaven by two glorious angelic beings who escorted him through the 10 heavens, each one higher and more splendid than the previous one. In each heaven, Enoch saw different wonders and mysteries and met different archangels, who revealed to him the secrets of creation, the heavenly realms, the celestial bodies, the history of Israel, and the judgment of the wicked. Some of the most remarkable visions that Enoch saw were the throne of God surrounded by fiery cherubim, seraphim, and other angelic beings who praised and worshipped God with loud voices. Enoch saw the face of God, which was like a glorious sun, and heard his voice, which was like thunder. Enoch also saw the Son of Man, the Messiah, who was seated next to God and had a face like a man but more beautiful than any human. Enoch was told that the Son of Man was the one who would judge the living and the dead and would inherit all things. The tree of life, which was planted in the Garden of Eden and which bore 12 kinds of fruits, each one different from the other. Enoch saw that the tree was very tall and large and that its fragrance filled the air. Enoch was told that the tree of life was reserved for the righteous ones who would eat from it and live forever. The abyss, which was a dark and gloomy place of torment where the fallen angels, the Watchers, were bound and imprisoned until the day of judgment. Enoch saw that the abyss was full of fire, smoke, and worms, and that the Watchers were suffering greatly. Enoch also saw that the abyss had 7 stars, which were the leaders of the Watchers who were named and cursed by God. The place of the dead, which was divided into 4 sections according to the deeds of the people who died. Enoch saw that the first section was for the righteous ones who were in peace and joy and who awaited the resurrection and the reward. The second section was for the ordinary sinners who were in sorrow and regret and who awaited the mercy and the forgiveness of God. The third section was for the wicked ones who were in pain and anguish and who awaited the punishment and the wrath of God. The fourth section was for the apostates who were in darkness and horror and who had no hope or salvation. The book also reveals Enoch's role as a prophet and a mediator between God and humanity. Enoch was a prophet because he received the revelations and the prophecies from God and the archangels, and he wrote them down in a book for future generations. Enoch was also a mediator because he interceded and prayed for the fallen angels and the human sinners, and delivered the messages and warnings from God to them. The story of the journey of Enoch in the Book of Enoch is similar to, but also different from, the story in the Bible. It also shows Enoch's interactions with the fallen angels and the human sinners, and his role as a messenger and a mediator between God and humanity. In the Bible, Enoch is mentioned briefly in Genesis 5 and Hebrews 11. In Genesis 5, Enoch is part of the genealogy from Adam to Noah, and it is said that he walked with God and did not die, but was taken by God. In Hebrews 11, Enoch is listed among the heroes of faith, and it is said that he pleased God and was taken away so that he did not see death. Apocalyptic and esoteric topics including the origins of the universe, celestial bodies, the history of Israel, and the punishment of the wicked are also covered in the Book of Enoch. Moreover, it introduces the Messiah, the Son of God, who sits next to God and will judge both the living and the dead. A part of the Book of Enoch, known as the Apocalypse of Weeks, portrays a future vision that is divided into 10 periods or weeks, each of which represents a distinct stage of human history and salvation. The significant accomplishments and traits of each week are summarized as follows. The first week, Enoch was born 7th in the first week when judgment and righteousness endure. The second week, after Enoch's time, great and evil things arise, and the first consummation occurs. Only one man survives Noah. The flood does not deal with sin, therefore this man makes a law for sinners, the Noahic covenant. The third week, during this week a man is elected as a plant of righteousness, and a second man as an eternal plant of righteousness. The first is Abraham, and the second is Moses, eternal since he was assumed into heaven. The fourth week, this week visions of old and righteous ones will be seen, and a law will be established as a fence. This probably refers to the writing of the Pentateuch, that is, the law. The fifth week, this week will see the completion of a house and a kingdom, the establishment of the Davidic kingdom. The sixth week, at the end of the week, the house and kingdom will be burnt, people will be blindfolded, and the chosen root will be dispersed. This is the period from David to the exile. In the seventh week, an apostate generation will arise, and all of their deeds will be criminal. The elect ones will give sevenfold instruction to the flock. This is the post-exilic period marked by corruption and Hellenization. The eighth week. After the judgment, there will be an eighth week, which will be a week of righteousness. During this period, a house will be built for the great king in glory forevermore. This is the Messianic age when the Son of Man will reign over the righteous. The ninth week, in this period there will be a righteous judgment, and all sinners will depart from the earth and be written off for eternal destruction. This is the final tribulation when the wicked will be punished and the righteous will be vindicated. The 10th week, in this period there will be a new heaven and a new earth, and God will dwell with his people. This is the new creation when all things will be restored and perfected. The Babylonian story of Enmen-Durana, the seventh antediluvian monarch who was associated with the sun deity and received supernatural revelations, has an impact on how the book foretells and interprets the arrival of the Messiah and the end times. The Son of Man, a celestial figure who would judge the earth and create an eternal kingdom, is how the Book of Enoch describes the Messiah. It describes the end times as a sequence of cosmic changes, conflicts amongst angels, and heavenly interventions. The narrative in the book is different from the biblical narrative in Daniel and Revelation in a number of respects. For instance, the Book of Enoch concentrates on the Watchers and the Nephilim as the primary enemies of God and his people, rather than the four animals or the Antichrist. The Book of Enoch similarly makes no mention of the millennium or the resurrection of the dead, although it does allude to a final division between the good and the bad. The timeline and symbols used in the Book of Enoch diverge from those in the biblical narrative, including the usage of the weeks, animals, and celestial bodies. A mysterious and controversial text that claims to reveal secrets about the angels, the giants, and the end times, the Book of Enoch is not part of the Bible and contradicts it in many ways, but some people still believe it has some hidden truths and insights. The Book of Enoch has several mentions that contradict the Bible. Enoch chapter 10 verses 1 through 3 mentions Noah, even though the Bible teaches that Enoch was taken up to heaven years before Noah was born. It states that then the most holy and great one spoke to Lamech's son in the presence of Uriel. Lamech said to him, "Go to Noah and tell him about the flood. In my name hide and tell him about the time that the entire earth will collapse. A deluge is scheduled to hit the whole earth, and it will wipe out everything that is there." The Bible never states that Enoch returned to earth after he was translated to heaven, so if he wrote the Book of Enoch, how could he have known about Noah and the flood? In the Book of Enoch, chapter 10, verses 8 through 9, God places all the blame for the corruption on earth on a demon named Azazel, which says that the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that Azazel taught him to ascribe all sin. The Bible doesn't mention any other demon besides Lucifer, also known as Satan or the devil, not to say there aren't any other demons there, still they're just never named, and Satan is the one who is ultimately blamed for the evils of our world because he is the originator of sin. Jesus said in 1 John chapter 3 verse 8, "That committeth sin is of the devil, for the devil sinneth from the beginning. For this purpose the Son of God was manifested that he might destroy the works of the devil." Fact. Also in the Book of Enoch, chapter 13 verses 5 through 6 imply that the fallen angels repented for their sins. The Bible indicates the opposite because it says the fate of Satan and his angels is hellfire in Matthew chapter 25 verse 41. Stating, "Then shall he also say unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels." Since the devil and his angels are consigned to hellfire, that indicates they are unwilling to repent, because everyone who repents from their sins is promised deliverance from destruction in hell. Chapter 3 of 2 Peter verse 9 states that the Lord does not waver in his promises, as some consider slackness, but is patient for us, and not in a position to allow anyone else to die, but everyone should become repentant. Not only is it claimed in the book that demons repented, but it also states that demons were no longer able to contact God after their initial rebellion, saying they could not speak with God or lift their eyes to heaven. But in Job chapter 1, Satan could come directly before God in heaven and talk to him about the Job and his fidelity. The concept of heaven is also described differently in Enoch's book, which describes God in heaven that is completely unbiblical. The Bible in Revelation chapter 21 and verse 21 describes the ground in the city of heaven as being made of gold. It says the street of the city was pure gold as it was transparent glass. The book of Enoch chapter 14 verse 10 says its groundwork was of crystal. This is just one example of the many contradictions the book of Enoch gives in its description of heaven compared to the Bible. There are many more contained in the book of Enoch, chapters 14, verses 9 through 25. Many astronomical and meteorological contradictions in the book of Enoch defy both the Bible and modern scientific facts. For example, in chapter 33, verses 1 through 4, the book of Enoch states that Enoch mapped and counted all the stars in the sky. However, Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 22, says the stars cannot be numbered. It's a physical impossibility because there are so many of them. Astronomers estimate there are about 100 million stars in the Milky Way alone. Besides that, there are millions upon millions of other galaxies. Also in the book of Enoch, chapter 41, the wind, snow, hail, and moon all come off a wooden receptacle in heaven. This is ridiculous, unscientific, and unbiblical by now. You may be starting to see why was the book of Enoch is not a part of the Bible. Why is the book of Enoch not included in the Bible? The book of Enoch is found to be very inspiring and moving. It is a blueprint of all things past, present, and future, from Genesis to the Son of Man Jesus Christ to the secret day of judgment. It is almost the whole Bible in one book. But the important question is why the book of Enoch is not included in the Bible. While the book is fascinating to read, it is important to note that the first book of Enoch is not scripture. That is, the book is not inspired by God. The book was quoted in the apocryphal book of Baruch in several early church manuscripts. It contradicts the Bible numerous times, and the book of Enoch actually falls into a category of writings called the pseudepigrapha. This means that the author is not who he claims to be, and that makes sense because the Book of Enoch speaks about Noah and the Bible indicates that Enoch was taken to heaven before Noah's time. So it's much more likely that the Book of Enoch was written by someone else later who falsely claimed that Enoch was the original author. Therefore, the Book of Enoch doesn't have much value for Christians who are trying to learn the gospel truths. But one of the reasons Jude may have quoted from it is because it was well known at the time, and the passage she quoted from contained some inspirational truth, which helped strengthen his case for the gospel. The authentic Book of Enoch is called the Ethiopic Book of Enoch pseudepigraphal work. The only full extant copy has been found to be the Ethiopic translation of an earlier Greek translation that was made from Palestine using the source Hebrew as well as Aramaic. Because the Book of Enoch was written after Christ, who was trying to compile what Enoch said about his philosophy and teaching, which omits Methuselah according to oral tradition, as the source is not reliable, the Book of Enoch did not remain within the books of the Bible and is considered doubtful. Enoch's book is a mystery, and no one knows for sure whether it was written by Enoch himself or compiled by someone taking inspiration from him. A lot is not known about the book and a lot of mysteries are yet to be solved. But the Book of Enoch is banned from the Bible and contradicts it in many ways. What do you guys think about the truth of the Book of Enoch? Let us know in the comments section below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a big thumbs up, and share it with your friends. We'll see you in the next one.